Seasons change. Spring training slides into the regular season. Summer cools into fall. Leaves change their color. Lives change their shape. Change is life's only constant. AAA Insurance is here to be your guide through life's journey. Protect what matters most. Make sure you have the right insurance for whatever season of life you're in. Talk to your local AAA insurance agent today. Visit AAA.com for details.
Football represents something we are. Football is like life. You gotta push.
Fantasy football is about proving that you are better than your friends.
Hold up.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Faceoff.
I'm gonna do what's best for the team.
Where fantasy meets reality.
Pure fantasy football nirvana.
And now your hosts.
Let the games begin.
Anthony Cervino and Michael Hoff.
And welcome back to the FF Faceoff, where fantasy meets reality. It is always great to have you with us for an absolutely fired up edition of the most dynamic fantasy football podcast on the planet, which is now part of the brand new full-time fantasy podcast network, as we take a stroll around the league for the second week of NFL's Mandatory Minicamp. And as always, we have a lot to talk about right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the best in the world!
Coming to you live from the FF Faceoff studio at the beautiful Jersey Shore, I am your host, Anthony Cervino. You can follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru, and don't forget to follow the show at the FF Faceoff as well. You can find us on all of the top social media platforms. If you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook Live, Periscope, Twitter, or Twitch, welcome to the big show. And if you're joining us in podcast format on iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, Amazon Alexa, TuneIn, or Apple Podcast, thanks for stopping by. But before we get into the action, here is a public service announcement from His Lordship.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
All right, guys, you know the drill. If you like today's episode and subscribe to the channel, please leave us a comment saying that you have subscribed, and once you're done, we will reply back to as many as we can to show our appreciation to you. I always like to remind you that we are a cost-free production here at the FF Faceoff, but just because we are a cost-free production, it doesn't mean that a lot of time doesn't go into putting these shows together from start to finish and everything in between. And because we do bring you a cost-free program, all we ask for in return is for some cost-free engagements that you can do right now as you're watching or as you're listening. You don't have to stop it. You can just go and click that like button, make a comment. Tell me if you agree or disagree with one of my takes. Tell me if I'm forgetting about a sleeper that I didn't mention. Comment on the news, whatever you want to do. You can do this all while you're listening, and it helps us grow our fan base and our community. Anytime somebody likes, anytime somebody hits the subscribe button and the alert icon so you can be notified anytime that we are live or upload, anytime that you tell everybody that you know about the FF Faceoff, tell your family, tell your friends, or leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It not only helps us reach more of you, but all of your engagements and interactions never, ever, ever go unnoticed. We do see, and I can't stress this enough, our podcast analytics are booming in the past 8 weeks or so. Our YouTube analytics and subscribers are slowly going in the right direction. I hope that picks up as we draw closer to the start of the NFL season. And before I forget, if you ever want to skip the public service announcement and jump right into a certain segment, all you have to do is go into that description, go to the timestamp that you want to go to, click on it if you are on a desktop device, and if you're using a mobile device or any platform outside of YouTube, all you have to do is go to your video or podcast player, take your scroll bar to the time that you want to listen to. Everybody wins. It's easy. And now that that's all out of the way,
And that's an order.
let's get right into the action. We have a big news day on the slate today. So, unless you've been sleeping under a rock, you know that the Oakland Raiders were awarded, if you can call it that, Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks is one of my favorite shows on television every year. It's a reality show that I can buy into. A lot of it is because it is the NFL, but a lot of it is the realness. It is the production. It is the behind the scenes parts that you don't get on a major network sports documentary or program. It's going to be a show, right? You got Mike Mayock, who is a revered draft analyst, and you have John Gruden, who is a Super Bowl winning coach, was in the Monday Night Football booth for a long time, and now he's back on the sideline. He struggled in his first go-around in Oakland, and now, as you're trying to build this roster, you bring in big-time personalities that can potentially hinder your growth. Antonio Brown, Vontaze Burfict, Josh Jacobs. Now, Josh Jacobs, he's not a dynamic personality that we know of yet, but he comes with, not only was he the first and only running back drafted in the first round of the 2019 draft, but he is also going to be tied to that Khalil Mack draft pick. Richie Incognito. Derek Carr. Is Derek Carr an MVP because he was an MVP caliber quarterback a few years ago, or is Derek Carr really just a Derek Carr that we've seen in those other seasons? They even have another reality star. Undrafted rookie Ronald Ollie spent a season or two on Last Chance U, which is a series about that JUCO college for troubled players or players who don't have the grades to play in a big-time program on Netflix. And on top of it all, you have the impending move to Vegas. You have Antonio Brown's, haircut, his beard. What color is his beard? And you have Mark Davis and his clown-like haircut. This is going to be a circus. This is going to be a sideshow. I don't believe that the Raiders are going far in 2019, but it's not going to be because of Hard Knocks. I just think it could take all of these different personalities and all these changes. I think it could take some time to gel. We will see most likely a step forward from the Raiders. I just don't expect playoffs because, look at their division alone. Chargers, Chiefs, and Broncos are going to be better because I believe Joe Flacco is an upgrade over Case Keenum, Trevor Siemian, Paxton Lynch, Chad Kelly. Moving on, the Jets. The Jets have a new general manager. Joe Douglas comes from the Eagles. I don't mind the hire. My biggest issue with this whole ordeal was the fact that the Jets pulled the trigger in firing Mike McCagnon after that free agency wave, after the draft. I don't agree with the timing because now Joe Douglas, he can't bring in his own personnel, right? So aside from your big-time players like Sam Darnold and C.J. Mosley and Le'Veon Bell, the Jets, a lot of these Jets players are playing for their future with the team. Because, barring a significant jump from Sam Darnold, and I think he's going to be very good statistically, I just don't know if the Jets are going to sniff the wild card. So you can make a case that a lot of these players know that this GM is going to clean house and they're playing for a job, which could work to their advantage. Joe Douglas has been to 3 Super Bowls. And I believe he's won all 3. The one with the Eagles, and then 2 with the Ravens. When he was in Baltimore, he was mostly in the scouting department, and with the Eagles, I believe, I don't quote me on this, something with scouting again or player personnel, but Joe Douglas is a Super Bowl winning front office member. He knows how to structure a team to make runs. He is a player / scouting / talent finding guru. Joe Douglas and Adam Gase, they were together for 1 year in Chicago. Douglas was the director of college scouting while Gase was the OC in 2015. I doubt that matters, because they probably didn't cross paths a lot. Joe Douglas was also deemed, and quote, a scout's scout by Ravens general manager Eric DeCosta. I'm content with the move by the Jets. After all the ridicule, and I came down hard about the timing of Mike Maccagnan's firing, I think Joe Douglas is the right man for this job. Joe Douglas, and I quote, said that there was a sense of urgency in Philadelphia knowing that we had a young quarterback and we wanted to put the pieces around him. And I think that there's going to be the same urgency anywhere, but especially with the young quarterback like Sam Darnold. Once you know you have the right guy, that's a sense of urgency. Let's go win right now. I feel like that confidence is here right now. Joe Douglas, maybe not this year, but next year when he gets to bring in his own guys and move on from Mike Maccagnan's guys, and he puts the essential pieces around Sam Darnold, because they did a good job. Mike Maccagnan did a pretty good job beefing up the talent, but I think Joe Douglas, again, 3-time Super Bowl champion as a member of the front office, he is going to be putting the right talent and the right pieces for the Jets to make a run in 2020. 2019, big step forward. 2020, we could be talking about the Jets. If Sam Darnold is really, the real deal at quarterback, the Jets could be talking and thinking playoffs in 2020. Moving ahead, ESPN's Adam Schefter reports the Vikings and tight end Kyle Rudolph had agreed to terms on a 4-year, $36 million contract extension. Maybe a little bit surprising, they drafted Irv Smith, and immediately everyone thought, including myself, that Kyle Rudolph was going to be moved. I thought Rudolph was going to be a member of the Patriots, to be honest. But the Vikings instead extend him 4-year, $36 million. Could we be looking at a potential, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert situation only a poor man's Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert situation with the Minnesota Vikings and Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith. I kill the Minnesota Vikings for having lack of depth at wide receiver. It's not Laquan Treadwell. They drafted Dylan Mitchell in the late rounds. They like a couple guys, but maybe Gary Kubiak says, okay, we're going to run the ball heavy with Cook and Madison. We are going to, employ Diggs and Thielen at receiver, and at wide receiver 3, it's going to be the combination of Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith acting as that third wide receiver, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did that. And Kyle Rudolph, I know we like to kill him in the fantasy football world, but he's a very, very good tight end in the NFL. He has produced from a fantasy perspective at times, and outside of fantasy, I think he's pretty good. Irv Smith is definitely going to help the offense once he gets acclimated to the pro system, and I think he will be a weapon in the red zone. I'd like to move for the Minnesota Vikings. I would still like them to develop a receiver only because of Thielen's being about 29 years old, and Diggs does miss a game here and there. More tight end news. Bills beat writer Joe Biscaglia is suggesting that he's impressed with third-round rookie tight end Dawson Knox so far since they drafted him and his performance in off-season workouts. We know that Tyler Kroft is on the shelf with an injury. We know that Charles Clay is in Arizona in the desert. And the only other tight end on the roster of note is Jason Kroom, who I don't mind. Dawson Knox, who has reportedly been impressing all offseason, could be the week 1 starter. And if not week 1, at least by October. And Tyler Kroft, by the way, suffered a broken foot on the first day of OTAs and will probably be on the shelf, I would say, until week 1. The Bills also signed Lee Smith, who is more or less predominantly a blocking tight end. So it's Jason Kroom or Dawson Knox, third-round pedigree, third-round draft capital behind him. It would not surprise me if he is the opening day starter, especially if Tyler Kroft ends up opening the year on the PUP list, which is a real possibility. Per Biscaglia, Dawson Knox has built an excellent little rapport with Josh Allen. I do believe the tight end position on the Bills is going to be busy, especially with a young and developing quarterback like Josh Allen. And Biscaglia also notes that even though it is early in the process, that Josh Allen is targeting Dawson Knox often. I think if Dawson Knox is the week 1 starter, he could be one of those rare rookie tight ends that produces right out of the gate. He is creeping up my rookie tight end rankings in a fierce manner. Moving ahead, Chargers contract walk-year running back Melvin Gordon reported to mandatory minicamp. There's not much to read into here. He's reported he's there, which means there is more than likely not going to be a holdout for a new contract. We do know that Melvin Gordon wants to get paid after seeing Le'Veon Bell get paid, and Ezekiel Elliott is waiting on a new deal. Let me tell you something. If I'm Melvin Gordon, I am going to wait until Ezekiel Elliott gets his contract and then go get paid from the Chargers. A little bit more Todd Gurley news. Like I said, I feel like we are talking about Todd Gurley on every show. And that is because there is a never-ending debate. Is Todd Gurley okay? Isn't he okay? Apparently, Todd Gurley told the press that he is not overly concerned about his knee issues, citing that his knee, and I quote, is a small problem. If you remember in the offseason, Gurley always maintained the opinion that his knee was not a problem. All of a sudden, Gurley's saying it's a small problem. Oh, good. The whole time,
Piece of push.
it's been a small problem. In fact, the whole time, it's been a significant problem because the Rams are doing their due diligence. And, I'll just keep repeating it. Malcolm Brown matched the offer sheet. Didn't have to do that if Todd Gurley was okay. You have John Kelly on the roster still, right? Let's trade up and get Darrell Henderson because Todd Gurley's okay, right? Wrong. Todd Gurley, to where his ADP is going to end up, if you can get him somewhere in the second round and those potential 6 games missed or 6 games worth of touches / production missed is built in, then it's okay. If you're drafting Todd Gurley in the first round, then you are potentially handicapping your fantasy football season right out of the gate. A little bit more on Gurley. Apparently, let me find it. Apparently, Rams coach Sean McVay absolutely expects Todd Gurley to be there and participate in on-field drills at training camp, although he may participate in drills. And keep in mind, he's been shut down at OTAs. Although he may participate in drills, is he going to be there for full team workouts? Is he going to be there for scrimmages? We know he's not going to play in the preseason. They already told us that. So read into this how you will, but be careful about where and when you draft Todd Gurley. Moving along, New York Giants are in the news. New York Giants quarterback situation. Giants head coach Pat Shurmur did not rule out the 6th overall pick Daniel Jones starting in week 1. The whole time, he has said that Eli Manning was going to be a starter. And now, Pat Shurmur is leaving the door open for the rookie. And I quote, Pat Shurmur said, you never know what's going to happen. And he commented that after being asked if Jones is on track to play in week 1, which he is, per the coach. And while Pat Shurmur eventually called Eli Manning his starting quarterback, he did so after being heavily pressed by the media and by reporters. To me, this is something to watch. Coming from an organization that has been pretty adamant about Eli Manning being their starting quarterback. I mean, Pat Shurmur openly came out and said a while back, I'm excited about the year Eli Manning is going to have. Eli is more than likely going to be the week 1 starter. But expect a competition, expect rumors, and should Eli struggle, expect Daniel Jones to play sooner rather than later. Apparently, they love the ways that Daniel Jones is progressing right now. Apparently, and this comes from, I live on the East Coast. I listen to a lot of national and local sports talk. And apparently, reporters and fans and anybody who is down and who has killed the Giants for drafting Daniel Jones, after seeing Daniel Jones on the field so far, they are changing their mind. I believe that the fans still need to be won over. But, I don't know. Eli's not going to play forever. You need a replacement, and if the Giants feel that Daniel Jones is the guy, you have to roll the dice. I mean, look at the Cardinals and Josh Rosen. Can he be any worse than that? The Cardinals, they moved up to draft Josh Rosen last year, doesn't play well, gets banged up. They're in a position to draft Kyler Murray. They trade Rosen. I mean, you could be in that situation. So I guess be happy that you're not, at least for now. Unless you're, a bad team again this year and you are in a position to draft Tua or Herbert. Then that's another conversation for another day. I don't see that happening, however. Eli Manning. Let's talk about Eli. Eli plays for a Giants team that ran the 6th most pass plays per game last year, 39.4. Eli Manning 8th in attempts, 576. 7th in red zone attempts at 86. However, he only completed 47.7% of his red zone passes. He was 6th in deep ball attempts with 74, but 17th in completing them at a rate of 35.1%. Eli, terrible. 37th in protection rate. There were backups protected better than he was. 9th in passing yards with 4,299. 10th in money throws with 22. However, 10th in interceptable passes with 24. He was also 10th in pressured completions at a 43.1% rate. 8th most dropped passes. He had 28 passes dropped last year, and the sixth best quarterback and receiver target separation, 1.73 yards per target. So, all that being said, not to mention, Eli Manning was very, very successful on third downs last year. All that being said, Eli Manning finished as the QB 17 last year. I know that people want to kill Eli Manning, and people say, well, Eli didn't do that. It was a lot of dump-offs to Saquon Barkley. His playmakers inflated his numbers. Well, if you look at the current situation, I know OBJ is gone, but he didn't play all year. I know that the Giants' offensive line is probably going to be improved. And I know that aside from OBJ, there were no changes to the personnel around Eli Manning. Saquon Barkley and Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram, who I will get to in a minute, they're all still there. I don't care. It's fantasy football. Who cares how you are getting those points? Who cares if a lot of Eli's fantasy production came off of Saquon Barkley's catching the ball and running? It's still production. And that's what I care about. I am not sitting here saying draft Eli Manning as a middling quarterback too. You can get Eli Manning for nothing. Eli Manning is one of the last quarterbacks off the board. And if you are in a super flex or a 2-quarterback league, if you are in best ball, why not take Eli Manning? Eli Manning, he's being 32nd, 33rd, 34th quarter. People are taking backups over Eli Manning. You can get him for nothing. And his ceiling, QB 17, that's what he did last year. Who's to say that he can't repeat that, whether his armor's doing it or whether, he's throwing a screen and Saquon Barkley's taking it 80 yards. 6 in one, half dozen in the other when it comes to fantasy football. If you're in deep leagues, if you're in deep 2-quarterback or super flex leagues, or if you're in deep best ball leagues, like I play the 30-rounders at the Fantasy Football Championship, 30-round best ball, I'm taking Eli Manning at a no-risk ADP when others are passing him by. I said I would get to Evan Ingram, and here I am. Giants head coach Pat Shurmur said Evan Ingram is sidelined by a hamstring injury. People love Evan Ingram this year, and I'm okay with that. I said it earlier when I was talking about Eli. The Giants attempted the 8th most pass plays per game last year. Number 9 tight end in target share, only 15th in targets. That needs to go up, especially with OBJ gone. But keep in mind that Evan Ingram only played in 11 games. There is a ton of untapped potential despite only playing in 11 games, 20th tight end in red zone target share, 7 targets. He also had 5 end zone targets, made him the 19th best tight end in that category, 13th in receptions, 12th in receiving yards, 3rd in yards after the catch, 21st in red zone receptions with 4, 7th in fantasy points per game, 11.3. Evan Ingram, if we can get a full year or 14 to 16 games out of Evan Ingram, then I think he could be one of the best fantasy tight ends that you can get your hands on. And while, people are drafting the big 3, George Kittle and Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, and even Evan Ingram, OJ Howard, I've seen go in the 4th round, which to me is too early. You can't go wrong with Evan Ingram, who right now sits with a 6.05 ADP, 5th pick in the 6th round. He is going in between Hunter Henry, 2nd pick in the 6th, and Eric Ebron, 7th pick in the 6th. I would probably take a shot on Henry or Evan Ingram over OJ Howard and Eric Ebron. And we will get to Eric Ebron. You know what? Let's get to Eric Ebron right now. Perfect segue that Eric Ebron is running routes at full speed in minicamp. He is coming off groin surgery. In my opinion, Jack Doyle and Ebron will be closer than many think if both are healthy. We know Jack Doyle is coming off the hip, but if you remember last year when they were both healthy, Doyle was the tight end that Andrew Luck was targeting in between the 20s, and Ebron was the guy Luck was targeting inside the 20. In PPR especially, I think Doyle and Ebron are pretty close. In standard, I might give the edge to Ebron because of that touchdown upside. And don't forget, if Doyle or Ebron go down at any point, Mo Alley Cox is getting talked up like crazy. He caught a few scores last year, and apparently this offseason, Mo Alley Cox is one of the stars in Colts camp. And to me, I want all of the Alley Cox I can get. Okay. Colts head coach Frank Reich told the press Andrew Luck will sit out minicamp with a calf injury. This is precautionary. There is nothing to read into there, nothing to panic about. Reich also said Paris Campbell is probably going to affect, and I quote, probably affect, Nyheim Hines' production. Hines caught about 60 or so passes last year, very productive PPR back, but because the Colts revamped their pass catchers, they brought in Campbell in the draft. They have Deion Kane coming off of injury. They brought in Devin Funchess. I think Hines is going to take a tremendous hit, and I like Nyheim Hines. But I think Hines is going to be biting for playing time behind Marlon Mack. Should Marlon Mack go down, then I think we can see a situation where Hines gets thrust into that featured role again, or at least splitting the duty with Spencer Ware. But to me right now, it is Marlon Mack's backfield more than anything else. I think Paris Campbell and Devin Funchess are going to be uber productive. Funchess more so in the touchdown category. Paris Campbell more in that gadgety play, slot receiver, PPR type of role. Patriots beat writer Jeff Howe believes 3rd round rookie running back Damian Harris could earn a prominent role, and I quote, prominent role in the offense. My question is, and I discussed this on our last news show, where the hell is Sony Michel? Sony Michel has not been at practice, and he has not been spotted at a Patriots practice since May 20th. Nobody knows what the hell is going on with Sony Michel, but I'm going to assume it's injury. It has to do with injury. We know that the Patriots do not want to reveal their players with injury issues. They like to keep it a secret as long as they can. Apparently, the word around New England is that Damian Harris will challenge Sony Michel on early downs. He could be had for essentially a nothing ADP. You can even throw Dynasty in it. Damian Harris, his Dynasty ADP is pretty low, all things considered, and his redraft ADP right now, where the hell is he? I am. 10th pick in the 13th round. Are you kidding me? Sony Michel has a 9th pick in the 4th round ADP.
Out of my way, jerk ass!
9th pick in the 4th round ADP. Damian Harris, 10th pick in the 13th round. I know what Sony Michel did in the postseason, but Sony isn't at practice. He has a history of knee injuries. He missed some time with a knee injury during his rookie campaign. And you're telling me you're going to waste a 4th round pick on Sony Michel? 4th round. David Montgomery, get Kenyon Drake in the 5th. Chris Carson, James White, Darius Geis in the 6th. I am going to wait. Before I draft Sony Michel, I'm going to reach for Kenyon Drake. Before I draft Sony Michel, I am going to take a flyer on Damian Harris in the 13th, who can do it all. Or I'm going to wait around and take James White, who's a PPR guy, who we know he's going to get a ton of targets. Whether he repeats what he did last year, I mean, James White was a top 10 PPR running back. He might not repeat that process, but we do know 9 times out of 10, James White is going to be the go-to guy for Tom Brady. Aside from Julian Edelman, he is one of the few remaining safety blankets for Tom Brady in that offense. But yeah, if you're going to ask me, do I risk taking Sony Michel in the middle of the 4th round, late 4th round, or do I rather take a shot on Damian Harris, who was already getting hype, who was already on the field while Michel is not, who was already rumored to be challenging Sony Michel for early down touches? You damn right. I am going to wait and draft Damian Harris. But if I do draft Sony Michel, I also want to draft Damian Harris for all of the aforementioned reasons. Little bit of Eagles news. Beat writer Michael Kay is reporting 2nd round rookie receiver JJ Arcega-Whiteside continues to impress in the red zone. We have heard Whiteside be hyped since rookie minicamp about being a red zone stud since the Eagles drafted him. And this only cements it and certifies it. Mac Hollins, who got a little bit of hype last year, he is dealing with an injury of his own, which gives JJ Arcega-Whiteside more reps. Eagles tight ends coach Justin Peel is telling the press that Dallas Goedert's development has been, I quote, phenomenal. I think Goddard and Ertz, Alshon Jeffrey, Whiteside, Deshaun Jackson, this Eagles, and I said this on the Carson Wentz reaction show about the contract, I believe it was an episode or 2 ago. Go check it out in the archives, hit the timestamp, and go right to the spot that you want to go to. This offense is going to be explosive. It is going to be a juggernaut, but Carson Wentz needs to stay healthy for it to work. And here's a concerning one. Eagles 2nd round running back Miles Sanders, who has sat out a lot. Miles Sanders is continuing to sit out and will not participate in minicamp with a hamstring injury. He's been out since the start of OTAs with the hamstring. It doesn't sound like it's going to be a long-term injury, but he has missed so much practice time that it is going to be hard for him to overtake a healthy Jordan Howard for the RB1 duties. And I've said this whole time. You can go back and listen. You can go check the facts. That I've said this the whole time. Jordan Howard, I believe he is going to be the dominant running back in the Eagles' backfield. The Eagles also deemed him or said that they view him as a capable pass catcher. We've heard that narrative from Chicago, and now he's in Philly. So take that for what you will. But we do know that he handled 270 touches last year in Chicago, 250 of which were carries. I do believe Jordan Howard is going to be the dominant early down runner. And when we see Miles Sanders, it is going to be the third round PPR pass catching back role, which is okay. Because I believe Jordan Howard is going to have a good year running behind an improved offensive line, a top 5, top 6 offensive line, which got better because they drafted the tackle in the draft in the first round. I believe that Jordan Howard is going to have a big year, and he is going to get paid elsewhere in free agency next year. And Jordan Howard's departure is going to open the door for Miles Sanders to finally take over the 3 down back RB1 duties. Something that further cements my opinion and my take about the Eagles will not feature Miles Sanders in a 3 down role this year is the fact that assistant head coach Deuce Staley told reporters that the team will continue to employ a running back by committee in 2019. Miles Sanders, I like him. I think he's going to be one of the better backs in this class. But he is going to be off draft boards, his average draft position, 11th pick in the 6th round. He is going in between Tevin Coleman and Lamar Miller. You can get Kareem Hunt after Miller, Rashad Penny after that. Miles Sanders, who is missing valuable practice time. You know, I know running back is different than receiver, but look at Mike Williams in his rookie year. Ton of hype. He had draft capital, but he got hurt early, missed a lot of time, didn't do much. We saw that with John Ross, too. We see that when rookies can't get on the field at OTAs and at these mini camps, and they're missing these reps, they have to play catch-up to get acclimated with the rest of the offense and get acclimated with the pro-level system. I think Miles Sanders missing this time is going to hurt him at least early in the 2019 campaign. Don't overlook it. This is why we do these news shows for you fantasy football players, because the news shows can heavily impact your fantasy football team, especially when a Miles Sanders who is missing time. Yet again, I'll keep stressing it, especially when he's being drafted with the 11th pick in the 6th round. I'd rather get Jordan Howard with the 5th pick in the 8th. Just to be clear. 49ers quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo is on track for training camp. What did he do? We're just going to continuously get these Jimmy Garoppolo updates until he's there. But this is what we've seen and heard for months now since the offseason started. Niners, 2nd round rookie receiver Deebo Samuel, another one. You know, he's going to sit out minicamp with a hip injury. These practice reps are so very important, especially for young rookies. People are underselling Pettis. I love Pettis. But some people are underselling him because the 49ers drafted Hurd and Deebo. They're forgetting about Goodwin, who had a tremendous rapport with Jimmy Garoppolo when they were together on the field. You can get Marquise Goodwin for nothing. And why not? When you can get a guy with a proven rapport with Jimmy Garoppolo when they're both on the field and healthy, when you can get a Marquise Goodwin, where the hell is his ADP? I can't even find it. 6th pick in the 14th round. 6th pick in the 14th round for Marquise Goodwin, proven rapport with your stud quarterback when they are healthy. Why not? When the rookie that everybody loves is missing valuable rookie reps. It makes no sense to me, and this isn't a knock on Deebo Samuel. I like Deebo Samuel a lot. But when you're missing these reps, you have to play catch-up. Especially, it's a little bit easier for Miles Sanders to play catch-up on reps because he's a running back. But when you're a receiver and you need to develop a rapport with your quarterback, and you're not even on the field, and neither is your quarterback, I don't know. That spells trouble. That spells setback in development, if you ask me. As we are, about to get on the back end of this show, I thank you for listening, by the way. Titans tight end Delaney Walker is not participating in minicamp with an ankle. Jonnu Smith is sitting out of minicamp with a knee. Both missed a ton of time, the bulk of the season last year, with their respective injuries. I expect both to be out there and fine for training camp. Saints receiver Cameron Meredith is not participating in minicamp. Surprise, surprise. So the question is, who is the Saints wide receiver 2 and 3? Probably Traquan Smith. Probably Keith Kirkwood. There's Des Bryant. Should he, look the part coming off of an Achilles injury, I would probably forget about Des at this point. But hey, he came back towards the playoffs last year. You never know. Their wide receiver 2/3 is probably going to be Jared Cook, who I absolutely positively love. The rumors and reports all offseason is that the Saints are going to dust off Jimmy Graham's section in the old playbook and open it up for Jared Cook, and possibly open it up with a few more wrinkles more for Jared Cook. He is the best tight end, most athletic tight end they've had there, either since Jimmy Graham or since the first go around with Ben Watson. Not last year, a few years before that, before Watson ended up going to Baltimore. Jared Cook, he was one of the more productive fantasy tight ends last year. Now you are getting an upgrade at the quarterback position from Derek Carr to Drew Brees. Jared Cook is going with the 2nd pick in the 7th round in redraft and best ball. I love it. I said I don't know how good Eric Ebron's going to be with all of the other pass-catching weapons around him. Let's say you don't want to draft Evan Ingram or Hunter Henry because of their injury issues. Throw O.J. Howard there. If you want a player with that type of upside in a really good offense where he's not going to be the focal point, Jared Cook early in the 7th round could be a slam dunk. I always like to say it. You have Michael Thomas, you have Alvin Kamara. They are Drew Brees' top 2 pass-catching options. And behind them, there's a ton of question marks with the aforementioned players, whether it be Kirkwood, Traquan Smith. You don't know about Dez. It's probably going to be Jared Cook. Jared Cook is probably going to be the 2nd option, not named Alvin Kamara or not a running back, or 3rd option if you include the running back. For Drew Brees in his passing progressions. And Jared Cook, like I said, he finished as the PPR tight end 5 when he was all that the Raiders had. They traded away Amari Cooper. Everybody was banged up, hurt, or very underwhelming. Jared Cook was the focal point of the Raiders' passing attack last year, and now he's going to be the 2nd or 3rd option in New Orleans. Are you kidding me? I absolutely positively am all over Jared Cook at his 7th round ADP. Bengals receiver A.J. Green will participate in individual drills at minicamp. If you watched our last show, which was undervalued, overvalued wide receivers, I talked a lot about A.J. Green, who I absolutely positively love this year. if he can stay healthy. You can have him in the third round. This is a player who has put up top 10 fantasy receiver numbers when he is healthy and playing in a full 16-game slate. Ravens quarterbacks coach James Urban praising Lamar Jackson's development as a passer this offseason. I certainly hope so, but you know what Lamar Jackson can give you with his legs. If Lamar Jackson can give you anything as a quarterback, as a thrower, pair that with his rushing floor, and Lamar Jackson could be flirting with top 12, top 15 quarterback status when it's all said and done in 2019. A few more little nuggets before we go. NFL insider Albert Breer reporting that Packers receiver Marquez Valdes-Scantling is quickly picking up Matt LaFleur's system. That could put him ahead of Geronimo Allison. What could also put him ahead of Geronimo Allison is Allison's history of injuries. I also talked about Geronimo Allison in the undervalued, overvalued wide receiver show. I love Geronimo Allison. I don't love the injury history. If you don't want to take the risk on Geronimo Allison in the late single-digit rounds, then you can get Marquez Valdes-Scantling early in the double-digit rounds, and that you can make the case that they both have similar upside in 2019. And last but not least, as we round out this show, Breer is reporting that he heard from around the grapevine that Cardinals receiver Christian Kirk has been the best receiver on the roster during the offseason program, and that is no surprise to me. I am a huge Christian Kirk fan. I am buying him huge in fantasy football startups this offseason. In best ball, I am buying him in season-long redraft as well. I love Christian Kirk. I think he is going to be the best receiver on the Cardinals roster, not only in 2019, but moving forward as Larry Fitzgerald winds down his career. That'll do it for today's show. It was a fully loaded news spectacular. These are my favorite shows to do, I think, because I can't stress it enough. If you're not paying attention to NFL news, then you are behind anybody else who is in your fantasy football league. Because this is where you learn about these rookies, like Miles Sanders and like Deebo Samuel. That's how you learn that there could be a hiccup in their development because they're not on the field at minicamp. And whether you want to believe it makes a difference or not, go look up Mike Williams' rookie year. Go look up John Ross. And the list goes on about players who weren't on the field for these mini camps and these OTAs. They take a while to get acclimated to the pro game. It takes them a while to get acclimated to the system, especially wide receivers. Could be a little bit easier for the running back. But these receivers, when they have to develop a rapport with quarterbacks, they fall behind. All of a sudden, they have a pseudo redshirt rookie year in the NFL. I want to thank everybody for listening today. If you are listening to us via the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network, please search out the FF Faceoff directly on your podcast provider and subscribe, because we are always putting out content that doesn't necessarily make it to our third-party carriers. If you're listening to us right now on iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker, TuneIn, Amazon Alexa, Google Podcasts, and especially you Apple Podcast users or any user of a podcast platform that allows you to leave us a 5-star rating and a 5-star review. And oh, by the way, we just received another 5-star rating. That's 3 this week. Thank you. Please subscribe to the FF Faceoff. Please leave us a 5-star rating and a 5-star review telling everyone why you love the show and why we are the best damn fantasy football podcast on the planet, where fantasy meets reality. because the more ratings, reviews, and subscriptions that we get, the more people we can reach. And in the end, we want to help each and every one of you win fantasy football championships, dominate your leagues, and absolutely positively crush, kill, destroy, annihilate the competition. We will maintain the culture of winning we've built here on the FF Faceoff for over 199 episodes and over 2 years since our inception. Pretty soon it will be the 3rd year anniversary of the FF Faceoff, and then I will be saying 3 years since our inception. But until then, right now it's still 2. Thank you for listening to today's show. I will be coming back to you most likely on Friday, either with overvalued, undervalued tight ends, or a mock draft. You know, once we get the Scott Fishbowl scoring system, we will do our annual Scott Fishbowl mock draft on the show. So if not an SFB mock draft, it could be a 12-team PPR. It could be a 12-team Superflex PPR mock draft. Or it could be undervalued, overvalued tight ends. Either way, you will get another show on Friday. Keep your eyes peeled and stay tuned. Until then, I'm Anthony Cervino. Follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. Thanks for stopping by and enjoy the rest of your day.
Seasons change. Spring training slides into the regular season. Summer cools into fall. Leaves change their color. Lives change their shape. Change is life's only constant. AAA Insurance is here to be your guide through life's journey. Protect what matters most. Make sure you have the right insurance for whatever season of life you're in. Talk to your local AAA insurance agent today. Visit AAA.com for details.
And now, an ad from Dad.
All right, save money on car insurance when you bundle home and auto with Progressive. Can I take these off? All right. What is this? This looks good. Wow, that's well made. Where did you get this? I'm talking to you with the hair. Yeah, where did you get this? It's good stuff. That's solid. That's not veneer, that's solid stuff.
Progressive can't save you from becoming your parents, but we can save you money when you bundle home and auto. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discounts not available in all states or situations.